Right next to me is a third generation Dodge Ram 2500, and in this video I'm going to go over the top 5 problems that we have found with these trucks. As these trucks get older, you'll notice that some of the problems on our list will pop up more frequently. Some of them can actually get pretty dangerous if you don't address them, and speaking of addressing them, doing the repairs yourself can save you a lot of money. So let's get into it. Our first problem is going to be under the hood. The thermostat is going to be first on our list, and on these vehicles, and really a lot of them, they actually tend to stick open. Thermostat not closing will actually overcool the engine, so it's basically just preventing it from warming up fully, which can cause a couple different things. One, increased fuel consumption because it's trying to warm up, but it just can't. Two, a check engine light with a P0128 code that'll point you in the direction of a bad thermostat. You replace it with one from oneauto.com, which we do sell, by the way, and that should solve your problem. Make sure you bleed that cooling system properly so you don't get any air bubbles, but at that point, engine should be back to normal. Our second problem is going to be EVAP related, and more specifically the eSIM, in this case, stands for Evaporative System Integrity Module. Basically, it just goes bad over time. Now, you want to check for voltage across the vacuum switch as you supply airflow. It should read 0 volts. If it doesn't, clearly there's a problem. Also, you want to check for grounds, make sure all your grounds are good. The black wire coming off that eSIM is that main ground, so if it's not good, fix it. If it's good and you still have a problem, well, you're going to have to just replace that module. Our third problem on this is going to be shock absorbers. And yes, shock absorbers go bad on every vehicle eventually, and you'll have to replace them. But on these, the original ones especially, they tend to wear out quite fast. So there is a revised version out there that you can replace them with to improve their lifespan and the handling of the truck. But what I also recommend is that you don't just replace the 2 rears or the 2 fronts. You want to replace all 4 at once, which, by the way, you can get at oneauto.com as a kit, so you only purchase once and you only replace them all once. Now, shocks tend to make the vehicle be more stable on uneven surfaces. When they go bad, you'll also hear some clunking over bumps, so it's really not that great to drive with worn out shocks. Can also get dangerous because it affects handling. So you definitely want to replace all 4 on this particular truck, like I said, and down the road you go smoothly. Our fourth problem will only apply to 4-wheel drive models, but a lot of these are 4-wheel drive. So what happens is the transfer case shift motor will randomly shift into 4-wheel drive, or even worse, 4-low, when you're not actually asking it to do so. The problem, however, stems at the switch inside the cab, or sometimes the wiring in between the two, and it will activate certain positions of the transfer case without you wanting it to do so. Now, the problem here is when it activates, you might be, let's say, driving at highway speeds, and then boom, 4-low engages, and that is not good because it will literally explode the transfer case if it does that. So if you think you have a problem with the 4-wheel drive system, whether it's the switch, the wiring, or the motor, address it right away because it can get pretty dangerous pretty quick. Our fifth problem is going to be related to the steering system on this truck, and a lot of times this problem will present itself through looseness in the steering wheel, wandering, wobbling, and in worst cases, you can get the death wobble, which is basically as you're going at high speeds on the highway, the wheels will basically get stuck in this shimmy where it vibrates the wheel back and forth violently, and it won't stop until you slow down. So like I said, it can get dangerous pretty quick, which is why you don't want to ignore it. If you think you have looseness, it'll come down to bad tie rod ends, and there are multiple in this setup. You want to replace all of them at once. This, in turn, will end up kind of damaging the steering damper as well because it'll try to take up a lot of the shocks. So I recommend replacing the steering damper as well. Get yourself all the tie rods and the damper at oneauto.com and replace them all as a kit, because after this job you need an alignment. And you don't want to have to pay for a bunch of different alignments if you just replace one thing at a time. So do them all, get that one alignment at the end, make sure the truck and all the steering components are set within spec, and the truck drives straight down the road.